Her foot slammed against my back. The corset's laces yanked tighter, crushing the breath from my lungs. I choked out a gasp, sharp, shallow, my vision blurred. "Hold still!" she snapped. The strings dug into my skin like claws. When it finally stopped, my waist was nothing but bone and pressure. The mirror didn't help. I was already padded, powdered, shaped. Breast forms so real they made my skin crawl. A dark green satin dress slid down my body like it belonged there, like I didn't. Petticoats flared, gloves tugged on tight, heels snapped into place. Her hands moved to my hair, curls bouncing into perfection. I didn't say a word. I didn't dare. Jake's voice broke through the memory of that morning, pulling me back to the present. "You could do it, you know," he said, leaning back in his chair, his grin sharp with mischief. "Hell, I'd bet you'd outshine most of the girls." I scoffed, rolling my eyes. "That's absurd, Jake, and you know it. What makes you think I'd look better than, say, Lauren?" His smile widened, teasing. "Oh, maybe that Cinderella dress you rocked at the school party, or that time you and Samantha were at the burger bin, looking like you'd done it 100 times. I felt heat creep up my neck. "That was different," I muttered. But Jake wasn't having it. "Come on, you can't pretend you haven't done it before. Just go for it." "It's a girl's role," I shot back, exasperated. He smirked, undeterred. "Yeah, but after Dylan's lawsuit, they have to open all parts to everyone. That includes you." I frowned, grasping at straws. "What about Dylan? He might try out too." Jake laughed, a short, barking sound. "Dylan? Seriously?" "Sure, he won the right to wear dresses to school, but he doesn't even try to pass. No makeup, no effort. You're different." The school's annual play loomed over us, its casting a feverish topic among the theater crowd. I'd been in every production since freshman year, my hands familiar with the weight of stage lights and the rhythm of rehearsals. But the male roles worth having were scarce, traditionally snatched by seniors, leaving scraps for the rest of us. Jake and I were practically brothers, raised on the same street, our lives tangled since childhood. Yet I'd kept my secret from him for years. I liked dressing in that new skin. Always had. It was a private thing, locked away in my room, until Samantha, my sister, dragged me out to that costume dance last year. Even then, it was her relentless coaxing that got me out the door. A month later, in a moment of reckless abandon, we'd gone out again, and Jake had spotted us at the burger bin. Now, he was pushing me to audition for the lead female role in the play, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Jake, at 5'10", had the kind of effortless charm that made girls swoon, his masculine ease a magnet for attention. But he carried himself with a quiet detachment, uninterested in the girls who chased him for status. "When the right one comes along, I'll know," he'd say, shrugging off their advances. "Why waste time on the rest?" I, on the other hand, blended into the crowd 5'6", average in every way, my features unremarkable among the other guys. His suggestion that I try for a female role felt like a prank, and I brushed it off, even when the frontrunner for the lead, Madison, transferred after her dad's job, yanked her family away. Mrs. Grant, the director, was a force of nature, her vision for each play as unyielding as steel. An older woman with a sharp eye for detail, she demanded precision rare in high school theater, her 14 national trophies a testament to her exacting standards. I dismissed Jake's idea as nonsense, convinced he was just stirring the pot, so when Mrs. Grant summoned me to her office, I walked in unprepared for the bomb she was about to drop. She didn't waste time. "As you know, Madison is no longer available for the play, leaving me without a lead." I blinked, confused. "What does that have to do with me? What about Brianna? She's solid. She could handle it." Mrs. Grant's lips pursed. "Brianna's a fine actress, but she lacks the presence I need. The lead must be commanding, even harsh at times, yet capable of softness when the moment calls for it. The other girls are too green." She leaned forward, her gaze pinning me to the chair. "Which is why I asked you here." My stomach lurched. I knew what was coming, but the words still hit like a slap. I want you to consider the leading female role. Me? I choked out, my voice cracking. You're serious? Mrs. Grant's eyes held mine, unflinching. Ah, are you out of your mind? I blurted, then caught myself, heat flooding my face. Sorry, ma'am, I didn't mean… She waved off my apology, her voice calm but firm. How many male actors have played women's roles through history? In Shakespeare's day, it was standard. Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, Patrick Swayze masculine men, everyone. Yet they stepped into those roles on stage and screen. What makes you think you're above them? Her tone softened, coaxing. We both know you can do this if you try. Your voice hasn't deepened too much. A slight lift, and it'll pass for feminine. Will you give it a shot? I sat there, trapped in a tangle of want and dread. Part of me yearned to say yes, to slip back into the thrill of dressing in that new skin, this time with the stage as my excuse. But the script loomed in my mind. Jake, likely cast as the leading man, would have to kiss me, not once, but 3 times. The thought sent a jolt through me, equal parts terror and something I couldn't name. Mrs. Grant didn't wait for my answer. With a decisive nod, she declared, I'm assigning you the role. She handed me a slip of paper with the address of a costume shop for fittings, her tone leaving no room for argument. You'll need to visit them soon. I left her office in a daze, my head spinning. Was this a disaster or a dream? I kept the news locked inside all day, dodging curious glances from classmates, until dinner, when Samantha's casual question broke the dam. Passing a plate of mashed potatoes, she asked, So, did you take the lead role? The words spilled out before I could stop them. I recounted Mrs. Grant's decision, bracing for Dad's disapproval. A theater buff, he'd always been vocal about his love for tradition, but he only leaned back, his eyes glinting with pride. Do whatever it takes to own that role, he said. Bring something new to it. Mom, though, gave me a look I couldn't read, her silence heavier than words. Later, as Samantha and I scrubbed dishes, she called me to her sewing room for a quick chat. I knew that tone trouble was brewing. She settled into her chair, gesturing to the one across from her. I sat, wary, as she began. I'm sure Mrs. Grant chose you because she believes in you, she said, her voice measured. But there's something she doesn't know, isn't there? You like dressing in that new skin. I opened my mouth to protest, but she cut me off. Don't deny it. I've seen you and Samantha, the way you light up when you're in her clothes. So, let's be honest. Have you thought about how hard this will be? She didn't wait for an answer, her words rushing on. Mrs. Grant's last 9 plays have toured, and this one's likely to follow. With over 20 performances here alone, have you considered what it'll take? What if you dressed in that new skin full-time? I stared, stunned. You want me to live in that new skin? Mom, come on! Don't play coy with me, she said, her eyes narrowing. This is the biggest role you've ever tackled, and you'll want to give it everything. Living in that new skin would help you master the mannerisms, make you freer on stage, especially in those love scenes. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. I didn't expect my son to wear dresses, but if this is who you are, there's no fighting it. You and Samantha have been at this for years. You're only resisting because you think it's what a man should do. It's not. It's the opposite. It's stubborn and foolish. I blinked, lost. What? She leaned forward, her voice gentle but unyielding. If you embrace this, really live it, your performance will be stronger. Going to school in that new skin would give you experience to draw on, make rehearsals feel natural. Plus, you'd get to do what you love dressing up without hiding. You wouldn't feel out of place. She sat back, a sly grin spreading. What name do you use when you and Samantha play dress-up? I slumped in the chair, searching her face for a trap. Finding none, I decided to meet her head-on. Alyssa, I said, my voice steady. That's the name. But if I do this, it's on my terms. Samantha and I pick my clothes, not you. I don't want to look like some middle-aged teen. And you and Dad have to promise not to make this weird. Mom's smile widened, triumphant. So, the truth comes out at last. I groaned, realizing she'd played me like a fiddle. In one deft move, she'd gotten me to admit I loved dressing up and spill the name I'd kept secret. I was outmaneuvered, and she knew it. Mom's voice softened, but her eyes held a knowing glint. Alyssa, that's a lovely name, dear. And since you've admitted you enjoy dressing in that new skin enough to choose a name, let's skip the pretense, shall we? She smiled, leaning forward. I'll agree that Samantha knows more about being a teenage girl than I do. You can pick your clothes with her, but mark my words, you'll be properly dressed at all times, just like she is. No exceptions, no matter where you go or what you do. Relief washed over me. She got it, or so I thought. How do Samantha's clothes fit you? She asked, her tone deceptively casual. They're okay, I said, shrugging. A bit snug at the waist, but otherwise fine. Stand right there, she instructed, grabbing her measuring tape. I'll take a few measurements. Come Friday after school, your days as a boy are over until the play's run ends. Then we'll see where we stand. She worked quickly, her hands steady as she measured me from head to toe, murmuring reassurances that she wouldn't embarrass me. But she repeated, with quiet insistence, properly dressed, always. I barely registered it, assuming Samantha's style would be my guide. My mind was elsewhere, snagged on the looming reality of walking into school in that new skin. My only hope was that Mrs. Grant would pave the way, framing it as preparation for the play. I made a mental note to ask her to do just that. Unlike Dylan, who wore dresses as a statement, but made no effort to blend in, I'd have to fully commit to become the girl I'd always dreamed of being. The next day, I caught Mrs. Grant between classes. Her eyebrows shot up when I mentioned attending school in that new skin, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. "You're serious about this?" she asked, but after a moment's thought, she nodded. "I'll handle it with the administration. Come Monday, you'll be recognized as Alyssa for the play's sake." Her agreement was a lifeline, but I kept it to myself, not even telling Samantha. The secret felt like a weight, growing heavier as Friday approached. When the day arrived, Mom led me to my room and shut the door. She sat on the bed beside me, her expression softer than I'd expected. "I'm proud of you for taking this on," she said, her hand resting lightly on mine. "Who knows? This could be your big break." She paused, her voice gentling further. "I'm sorry if I came on strong the other night. You have a rare gift on stage, a presence most actors can only dream of. That's why I suggested living in that new skin full-time. You don't have to, but given how much you enjoy dressing up, and the demands of this role, there's little room for half measures. If you don't commit fully, you risk turning it into a caricature, and that's the last thing you want." She leaned back, her eyes searching mine. "Last year's play toured for what? 19 weeks? "Yeah," I said, nodding. "Hey, it was doing so well. They even talked about extending it." "Exactly," she said, her voice dropping. "What if this play takes off the same way? You could be dressing in that new skin for 6 months or more. Think about it constantly switching between boy and girl, 3 or 4 times a week, for months. Early classes, big tests, long rehearsals. How long before it wears you down? Before you say, forget it, and show up to school as Alyssa just because it's easier?" I swallowed, the truth of her words sinking in. "So, you're saying it'd be better to just become a girl for the whole run?" "Only if it's what you want," she said, her tone careful but firm. "You already love dressing up, so I thought you might seize the chance. I didn't plan for this when you were born, and if you choose to go back and forth, I won't stop you. But this is your call, yours alone. Your father and I won't make it for you." I sat there, her words echoing in the quiet room, my thoughts a chaotic swirl. Going to school in that new skin felt like stepping off a cliff. Mrs. Grant's support was a comfort, but it didn't erase the reality. Dylan's half-hearted attempts were one thing. He was a guy in a dress, nothing more. If I did this, I'd have to be indistinguishable from the other girls, as Mom insisted. No slip-ups, no cracks in the facade. The thought alone sent me teetering on a fragile edge, the kind of limb that could snap with the slightest misstep. I knew I could pull it off, or at least I was pretty sure. My reflection in Samantha's dresses had always felt right, like a glimpse of a self I'd kept hidden. Most of the kids at school would probably get it, especially with Mrs. Grant's backing. But there were always a few, the ones who'd see me as a target, who'd settle their confusion with fists. As I met Mom's steady gaze, she offered no hints, no push one way or the other. My mind drifted to that day with Samantha, laughing as we strolled through town, and the countless times we'd played dress-up in her room, her closet a gateway to a world I'd only dared imagine. This was my chance to live that dream, to step fully into it. I couldn't let it slip away. "Okay," I said, my voice calm, no trace of a smile. "I'll do it." Mom nodded, wasting no time. She laid out the plan with clinical precision. Every trace of body hair below my eyebrows had to go, including my groin. My pulse raced as she described the process, my stomach twisting at the thought of her applying the depilatory cream herself. I hadn't expected that, but she was insistent, and my protests died in my throat. In my room, I stripped down, cheeks burning as I stood with arms outstretched and legs apart, letting her coat my skin with the sharp-smelling cream. Time dragged as it worked, each second amplifying my embarrassment. Finally, I stepped into the shower, watching the sparse hair swirl down the drain, leaving my skin startlingly bare. My groin looked alien, smooth and vulnerable, and an itch prickled everywhere. Mom handed me a lotion to soothe it, and as we rubbed it in, the discomfort faded. She passed me a pair of panties, simple and soft, with a promise to finish the rest in the morning. At dinner, Mom announced my decision to the family, her voice firm as she declared that I'd be dressing in that new skin every day for the play's run. Her words were for everyone, but her eyes locked on Samantha, a silent warning to stay out of it. I kept quiet, stealing a glance at Dad, who choked slightly on his food. Mom reminded him of his own advice to capture the role and bring a new dimension to it, and called my transformation method acting. Dad didn't argue, his silence louder than any words. The next morning, I expected to dive into Samantha's wardrobe, but Mom had other plans. "Get dressed," she said, and we drove across town to a small plaza. I was still in my usual jeans and hoodie, confusion gnawing at me as we pulled into a parking lot. The shop's sign made its purpose clear, and my heart skipped. "I called ahead," Mom said. "They know what you're doing. Just answer their questions and it'll be fine." Inside, a woman named Lauren greeted us, her manner brisk but kind. She had me remove my shirt and set to work, creating a mold from my chest to my waist. I watched, mesmerized, as she mixed chemicals like an alchemist, adjusting colors to match my skin tone. From my mold, she crafted a male counterpart, then used it to produce a pair of breast forms so realistic I could hardly believe they were latex. When she held them against my chest, the edges blended seamlessly, no hint of a seam. She applied adhesive to both the forms and my skin, pressing them into place as a single unit across my chest. After a few minutes, she nodded. "Go ahead, touch them." I hesitated, then brushed my fingers across them, stunned by their softness, their weight. They felt real, lifelike in a way that sent a shiver through me. Lauren smiled. "They'll warm to your body heat in an hour or so. You'll feel everything touches, bumps, even a squeeze." She winked, and I flushed. Mom led me to a small room, handing me a bra. I fumbled with the straps, the form's weight tugging unfamiliarly, then slipped on a blouse she offered. As we left, the gentle bounce with each step felt like a seismic shift, a tangible step toward becoming Alyssa. Next, Mom took me to her salon. The stylist trimmed and shaped my hair into soft waves, framing my face in a way that felt distinctly feminine. My nails were cleaned, filed, extended slightly, and painted a muted plum, the color catching the light as I moved. On the drive home, Mom glanced at me. Lauren says those breast forms can be worn for months without removal. They're state-of-the-art, used by women who need them. Just looking at you now, I'm certain they'll help you feel like the girl you're meant to portray. Her words hung in the air, both a reassurance and a challenge, as I stared out the window, the weight of my new reality settling deeper. Mom's voice was bright as we drove home, but her words carried a weight I wasn't ready for. When we get home, a friend of mine is coming over. She'll help us make you look even more in that new skin than those breast forms do. I blinked, my mind reeling. More than this? The forms already felt like a miracle, their weight a constant reminder of the line I'd crossed. What could be better than this? I wondered. But Mom's cryptic smile offered no clues, only a promise that no one would ever mistake me for a boy, no matter what I wore. She hinted at something more permanent, something she thought would make things easier, but she hadn't explained what. My imagination leapt to surgical extremes. Surely she wouldn't go that far. I stayed quiet, a knot of unease tightening in my chest. At home, the house was empty, and Mom made a quick call before leading me to my room. There, she laid out her plan, and my breath caught. It was as wild as I'd feared, a procedure to conceal my male anatomy entirely, to give me the appearance of a girl in every way. I'm not sure I'm ready to lose it, I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Mom's gaze was steady, unflinching. It might betray you at the worst moment, you know. A slip like that could ruin everything. So, tell me, how much of a girl do you want to be? The question hung between us, heavy and inescapable. I couldn't say it aloud, but my nod was enough, a silent surrender to the path I'd chosen. I hoped for the best, even as dread gnawed at me. When her friend arrived, Mom introduced her as a registered nurse who'd performed this procedure twice before, both times for her husband, a psychiatrist helping patients explore life as women. The nurse's calm professionalism put me at ease as she explained every step, emphasizing that it was safe, reversible, and could last as long as I needed. She answered my hesitant questions, ensuring I understood, and when I gave my consent, I lay back on the bed. The needle's pinch below my waist was brief, and sleep claimed me swiftly. When I woke, my hand instinctively reached for my groin, expecting the familiar. Instead, I found a smooth, narrow slit. I was alone, the room quiet, and I explored cautiously, my finger slipping just inside, stopping at the first knuckle. It was real, or real enough. My head spun as I sat up, pulling on panties, jeans, flats, and a blouse. The motions automatic but strange. My body foreign, yet mine. In the kitchen, Mom and the nurse sipped coffee, their conversation pausing as I entered. "How does it feel?" the nurse asked. "Fine," I said, my voice small. They stepped outside, leaving me to sit with my thoughts. In a single day, I'd gone from a lanky boy to a girl who could pass for Samantha's twin breast forms, styled hair, painted nails, and now this. Only Mom and I knew the full extent of it, and the secrecy felt like both a shield and a burden. Mom returned, her eyes softening as she touched my arm. "Go change into a skirt and blouse, or a dress something of Samantha's, and put on some makeup." I started to move, then stopped, turning to wrap her in a tight hug. "Thanks, Mom," I whispered. She held me close, her voice low. "I was scared at first, but seeing how you light up when you're like this, I knew we had to try. We gave it a reason, the play. But this, it's about you. And yes, none of it is permanent. Unless you want it to be." I pulled back, a wry smile tugging at my lips. "Dad's going to lose it when he sees me." "Probably," she said with a chuckle. "But he'll come around. You needed to know what it's like to live in that new skin. Really live it. That means the messy parts, long bathroom lines, the work it takes to look put together every day. You could have stopped me at any point, but you didn't. Letting us adjust you like this? That says something." "It says I'm a girl now," I said, half joking, but the words felt truer than I expected. Mom shook her head. It says you look like one. Becoming a girl means learning what we know instinctively while reining in every male impulse you've got. That's the hardest part, harder than anything you'll ever do. In my room, she smoothed my hair, guiding me through applying makeup soft foundation, a hint of blush, eyeliner that made my eyes pop. Then she pulled a dress from Samantha's closet, a fitted number that hugged my new curves and dipped just low enough to showcase the breast forms. Might as well make a statement, she said, her smile mischievous. Let Samantha and Dad see the real Alyssa. I stared at my reflection, the dress a bold declaration that the boy they'd known was gone, at least for now. My heart raced, but beneath the nerves, a quiet thrill pulsed. This was me, or the me I was becoming, and there was no turning back. Mom and I were lounging on the patio when the front door swung open, announcing Samantha and Dad's arrival. I stood, the dress clinging to my new curves, and watched Samantha's eyes widen, her jaw practically hitting the floor. She'd worn this dress before, padded to fill it out, so she knew instantly that whatever magic we'd worked was beyond her expectations. Dad, though, froze mid-step, his gaze locked on my chest. Is that tape or something? He asked, his voice thick with confusion. Or something, I said lightly, sidestepping the details. He didn't need the full story, not yet. Maybe never. Samantha's curiosity was a live wire, barely contained. Come to my room, she urged, but before I could respond, the doorbell chimed. She darted to answer it, then called my name. I stepped inside and found Jake standing in the foyer, his mouth agape as Samantha introduced me as Alyssa. Holy, you don't look like you at all, he blurted. Isn't that the point? I shot back, a playful edge to my voice. You're the one who said I should try it. Didn't you tell me I'd be better at it than most girls? So, what's the verdict now that we've met? Jake fumbled, words tripping over themselves. Let's hit the mall. Just walk around, strut a bit. His eyes flicked to Samantha, who nodded eagerly. I told him to wait, grabbed my purse, and rejoined him, a grin plastered on my face. Mom and Dad entered just as we were about to leave. I announced our plan to cruise the mall, and after Mom whispered something to Dad, he handed me his credit card without a fight. Get what you need, he said, adding that Mom had already briefed him on the essentials. Then, in a tone I'd never heard when I was his son, he told Jake to be careful. I almost laughed as we headed out, the short dress riding up as I slid into Jake's car, giving him an eyeful. I could have sworn I heard him gulp. On the drive, Jake broke the silence. You're gonna piss off a lot of girls looking like that. His tone held a mix of amusement and admiration. He was talking about Brooke, the spoiled queen bee who always got her way. She wanted your part in the play and's been mouthing off that no guy could pull off a girl's role convincingly. Can't wait for her to see you. I shrugged. She'll get over it. She never had a shot anyway. Jake's eyes drifted to my chest, lingering. How'd you even... Those look real. I smiled, teasing. They're not going anywhere. Let's just say even Connor would never guess. I figured you'd look decent, but... He trailed off, shaking his head. Thanks, Jake. Just stick close at the mall, okay? I could use the backup. We wandered the mall, the click of my flats echoing my newfound confidence. I dragged Jake into a lingerie shop, relishing his discomfort as he hovered awkwardly while I tried on a corselet and picked out 2 bras. When we left, I grabbed his hand, startling him, but he didn't pull away. Later, I added 2 skirts and a dress to my haul. Then we spotted Brooke, flanked by her entourage, striding toward us. Jake introduced me as Alyssa, saying I'd start school Monday, but left out the rest. Her eyes narrowed for a split second before she flashed a syrupy smile and sauntered off. Jake kept holding my hand, his fingers flexing slightly, as if unsure whether to tighten or release, a quiet reassurance that grounded me. As the mall closed, we stopped at an ice cream shop. Jake, the notorious cheapskate, asked what I wanted, nudging me when I hesitated. I grinned and told him, savoring the small victory of him treating me. Back at my house, I braced for him to try something, a kiss. Maybe, but he just watched as I walked inside, his gaze lingering. In my room, I started undressing, down to my bra and panties, when Samantha burst in, slamming the door behind her. Her eyes locked on my chest, and I couldn't resist messing with her. I unhooked the bra, letting it drop, and her jaw fell. Then I slipped off the panties, turning slowly to face her, a grin spreading across my face. She nearly squealed, but I shushed her. "Dad doesn't know yet," I whispered. "And if I'm lucky, he never will." Samantha's eyes were still wide as we sat on my bed, her questions tumbling out faster than I could answer. I spilled everything: how Mom's friend, the nurse, had transformed me. The surreal process that left me with a body that felt both alien and right. "As long as it's working, I'm keeping it," I told her, my voice steady despite the late hour. We talked until exhaustion won, and I collapsed into bed, the weight of my first day as Alyssa at school looming. Morning came too soon. In the bathroom, I fumbled through my new routine. The act of sitting to pee, a stark reminder of Mom's warning about the messy parts of being a girl. It was strange, awkward, but I managed. I chose a simple white bra and panties, slipped on pantyhose, and paired a skirt with a blouse. Makeup came next: foundation, mascara, a touch of lip gloss, my hair brushed into soft waves. With my purse and books in hand, I drove Samantha and myself to school, my confidence a fragile shield. As we walked through the doors, heads turned, whispers trailing us like smoke. By the time I reached my first class, the news had spread like wildfire. The boy they'd known was gone, replaced by Alyssa. Mrs. Grant had warned the teachers, and they carried on as if nothing had changed. But the hum of gossip never faded, a constant undercurrent of curiosity and judgment. The tension broke after third period, when I stepped into the ladies' room. I'd barely finished when Brooke, flanked by her cronies, and Megan, the school's undisputed queen, blocked my path. Megan had it all: beauty, wealth, charm, and the arm of the school's hottest guy. Brooke, though, was all venom. "You're not supposed to be here," she spat. "This is for girls only, and you're not a girl." "Quiet, Brooke," Megan said, her voice low but commanding. Everyone, even Brooke, fell silent. Megan's eyes met mine, cool and assessing. "We know you've got the lead in the play, but isn't this a bit much?" I kept my tone light, unfazed. "What better way to practice? I need to live the role." "Shouldn't you be in the guys' restroom?" Megan pressed, one eyebrow arched. I stepped closer, my voice steady. "Take a good look, Megan. What kind of reaction do you think I'd get in there?" "You don't belong here either," Brooke shrieked, her face reddening. "Be quiet, Brooke, or leave," Megan snapped. "I'll handle this." Brooke and her friends retreated slightly, but the air crackled with tension. I closed the distance between Megan and me, dropping my voice so only she could hear. Years of being a guy had stripped away any fear of her status. "There's nothing to handle, Megan. I'll keep using the ladies' room because it's right, not because you allow it. Brooke can whine all she wants, but it won't change a thing. Bet against me, and you'll lose bad for your image. So take her and her pack of spoiled brats and leave me alone." With a flourish of my skirt, I swept past them, a smile tugging at my lips. Samantha and I had planned for this, knowing I'd need to provoke someone, Brooke, ideally into a misstep to cement my place. I'd hit Megan's ego and called out Brooke's pettiness in one strike. The first shot was mine, and it felt good. In drama class, Mrs. Grant's face lit up when she saw me. She pulled me into a hug, then announced to the room that I was the female lead, her pride practically glowing. I stood beside her, soaking it in, but noticed Jake's absence. My best friend, usually a constant presence, was nowhere to be seen, and I didn't spot him all day. The next 3 days passed more smoothly, each one easing me into my new reality. I stuck to skirts and dresses, their flow a deliberate statement, saving jeans for stormy days. The whispers faded as people adjusted, Alyssa becoming less a spectacle and more a fact. On the third afternoon, Megan caught my sleeve, pulling me outside to the picnic tables. Her tone was softer, almost conciliatory. "I'm not your enemy, Alyssa. Brooke thinks I'll back her up, but I won't. I talked to Samantha, and she says you're as much a girl as I am now. I don't quite buy it, but I've known you both forever, so I'll trust her. But I need you to do something." "What's that?" I asked, wary. Megan sighed, glancing away. "Brooke's being a pain about this. She won't believe Samantha she's your sister, so she thinks it's bias. You need to find a way to shut her down, make her stop acting like this." Megan's words echoed as we parted ways, her warning about Brooke's threats sinking in. "It's just a play, but her daddy's got deep pockets. She's talking about suing you in the school first for using the ladies' restroom, then for taking the role she wanted." I shook my head, incredulous. "Men have played women's roles for centuries. No judge would stop that." "Maybe," Megan said, her voice low. "But the restroom thing? She might have a case unless you make her believe you belong here as much as she does." We split off, and as I walked to my next class, an idea sparked one that would silence Brooke and shake the school to its core. Saturdays were open pool days, a free-for-all for students. The plan took shape, a grin spreading across my face. I whispered to a notorious gossip, knowing the rumor would reach Brooke by sundown. Alyssa would be at the pool, using every facility, bold as brass. Then I tracked down Samantha, who was hanging out with Jake and Connor. I laid out my scheme, and the guys quickly excused themselves, sensing the brewing storm. They knew better than to get between feuding girls. On the way home, Samantha and I hit the mall, where I found a bikini so daring it barely qualified as clothing tiny bottoms, and a top of 2 scant triangles tied with string. It was a risk, one that might not pass Mom's properly dressed rule, but when I tried it on, Samantha choked back a laugh, then grabbed a matching set for herself. "You're not doing this alone," she said, her eyes gleaming. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." That night, after dinner, we slipped into our bikinis and descended the stairs together. Dad spotted Samantha first, bolting upright, but when his eyes landed on me, he sank back into his chair, stunned. Mom's eyes widened, her breath catching. Samantha spoke first, laying out our plan and its purpose. Brooke's challenge, my need to prove myself. Dad's gaze flickered between us, realization dawning as he saw how much I resembled Mom, not him. After a long pause, Mom gave her blessing, but added, "Your father and I will be there, just in case." Friday night, I meticulously checked for stray hairs, then tried on the bikini again. The bottoms, cut like boys' shorts but skin-tight, left nothing to the imagination, not a mole, not a hint of what I'd once been. The bright red fabric popped against my skin, a statement in itself. Saturday morning, Samantha and I dressed in shorts and tops, our bikinis tucked into bags with our towels. Dad drove us to school, his silence heavy but supportive. In the nearly empty ladies' locker room, we changed quickly, grabbed our towels, and stepped out to the pool. The area had filled fast, a crowd drawn by the rumor I'd planted. Connor waved, mostly at Samantha, but Jake was nowhere in sight. I dove in, slicing through the water for a few laps before pulling myself out, dripping. Brooke stood nearby, her eyes raking over me. I sauntered over, casual as could be. "Going in?" I asked, letting her take in the clinging top, the unmistakable curve of my breasts, as real as hers. She choked, her face twisting, and I walked away with a smile. Then Jake appeared, heading for the men's lockers. Samantha and I were chatting with friends when he joined us, his eyes barely reaching my face as he muttered about expecting fireworks from Brooke. Samantha nudged me, and I grinned, grabbing his hand and yanking him into the pool. I dove after him, feeling his hand graze my hip as we surfaced. He flashed that goofy grin, and I didn't swim away, letting the moment linger. We stayed close. Samantha and Connor paired off nearby, until 3 hours later, I headed for the showers. As planned, Brooke and her posse followed. I didn't hesitate, stripping off my wet bikini and stepping into the shower, the hot water cascading over me. I was lathered in soap when I heard them enter, followed by a piercing shriek. I opened my eyes to see Brooke, her face contorted in a grimace, her friends giggling behind her. "Anything wrong, honey?" I asked, my voice smooth as the suds rinsed away. You're a... Damn it!" she sputtered, turning to storm off. Her foot slipped on the wet tiles, and she crashed to the floor with a resounding smack. "Did you hurt yourself, dear?" I called, unable to keep the sarcasm from my voice. Brooke's face twisted as she scrambled to her feet, her words a venomous sputter. "Shut up, you..." "What?" I cut in, my voice syrupy sweet. "Girl?" I stepped closer, legs slightly apart, towering over her as she glared up at me. The shower's steam curled around us, and from her angle, there was no mistaking it. I wasn't hiding anything. "If you so much as try to make trouble again, I'll be back, and I won't be this nice. Now get out and leave me alone." Her friends hustled her out, their giggles echoing off the tiles as I slipped back under the spray, letting the water wash away the encounter. Outside, Jake, Samantha, and Connor were waiting. Samantha's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "Well, what happened?" "She won't be a problem anymore," I said, a quiet confidence in my voice. I cleared up any doubts she had. "Let's get out of here, Alyssa," Jake said, grabbing my hand. He tugged me toward the exit, moving so fast I barely had time to shout to Mom and Dad that he was driving me home. But home wasn't where we went. Jake steered us toward the lake, his jaw tight, his eyes clouded with something I couldn't read: anger, confusion, maybe both. I wondered if it was aimed at me. At the shoreline, he paced, skipping stones across the water with sharp flicks of his wrist. I stood beside him, silent, waiting for him to speak. Then, without warning, he grabbed my arm, spun me to face him, and kissed me hard, urgent, his lips pressing into mine with a passion that stole my breath. I froze, stunned, as he pulled back, his hands gripping my arms, holding me in place. "Damn it, Alyssa," he growled. "Don't you get what I've been going through?" "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaky, my head spinning. He sank to the ground, cross-legged, pulling me down with him. "You're my best friend, right?" "Right," I said, nodding. "We've shared everything: food, clothes, even crashed in the same bed a few times. I've seen you naked, for God's sake. So how the hell did you convince Brooke you're a girl? And if you could do that, why didn't you tell me?" I softened, my voice gentle. "You didn't need to know, Jake. Not then. But now." "Now? I already know," he shouted, his frustration spilling over. Then it hit me, clear as the lake before us. "That's not why you're like this," I said slowly. "You're attracted to me." "You think I'm..." He didn't let me finish. He pulled me close, kissing me again, softer this time, then again, each one unraveling me a little more. I was too shaken to stop him, my body caught in a current I hadn't expected. Jake, my rock, the one I thought immune to my transformation, was anything but. He was drawn to me, and it terrified him, maybe even more than it thrilled me. I leaned back, grass tickling my neck, and he loomed over me, his grin sparking one of my own. That smile was all he needed. His arms wrapped around me, and I didn't pull away, even when his hand slipped under my blouse, then my bra, his fingers brushing the breast form that felt so real. My breath hitched, but I stopped short of touching him back, knowing one move could tip us somewhere I wasn't ready to go. We'd already crossed lines I hadn't imagined, and Jake wasn't just my friend anymore. He was showing me what it meant to be wanted in that new skin. I stood, brushing grass from my clothes, and he rose, sheepish but unapologetic. "Let's go," I said, before things spiraled further. We grabbed burgers, his hand resting on my leg the whole drive, a quiet claim that both thrilled and unnerved me. Jake was wrestling with himself. He liked girls, not boys. But I was both and neither. A girl in every way he seemed to need to him. It made him angry, not at me, but at the confusion I'd stirred. I'd always wanted to be a girl, but I'd never considered how a guy might react to me. Now Jake's touch had ignited something new, a tingling, that made me question just how deep this transformation went. I wasn't ashamed, but I was scared. The intensity of it all, too much to untangle. When he pulled up to my house, he turned to speak, but I leaned in first, kissing him softly. "You're still my best friend, Jake. Always will be." I grabbed my bag and purse, slipping inside before he could respond. My head was a mess, as tangled as his, but I knew one thing. Whatever pulled us together was rooted in our friendship, and I wouldn't let it break. Mom was waiting, her casual, "How'd it go?" deceptively light. I answered, "Fine," thinking she meant Brooke, but her knowing look said she was asking about Jake. I dodged her gaze, unsure how to explain the lake, the kisses, or the way my world had tilted off its axis. I brushed off Mom's question, my voice casual. "There's nothing to tell, Mom. Jake and I are still best friends." "I'm sure you are, Alyssa," she said, her eyes searching mine. "But is it becoming more than that?" "He kissed me," I admitted, shrugging. "It was nothing, really." "Honey," Mom said, pulling me into her sewing room and shutting the door. "Remember when you said you were a girl, and I told you becoming one means learning what we know instinctively while suppressing your male instincts? I said that would be the hardest thing you'd ever do. Do you remember?" I nodded, and she sat down, her voice gentle but firm. "This is one of those moments. Jake's attracted to you, and from the look on your face, it was more than a kiss or two. He doesn't see you as his guy friend anymore. He can't. You've become a girl, and after that stunt at the pool, no one believes you were ever a boy. Don't you see?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. "But he's known me forever, Mom. He knows I'm a guy." I sank into a chair, my voice dropping. "He touched my breast, Mom." "That's exactly my point," she said, leaning forward. "Jake sees you in that new skin because you are one to him. He can't separate your friendship from his attraction. You let him, so he did what any guy would. He touched you. But that's gone now, Alyssa. Jake saw what Brooke saw, someone convincing, undeniable. That blurred everything for him, and now he's left clinging to whatever part of our friendship still feels familiar. And that's why he's angry, probably with himself, maybe even with you." She pulled me into a hug, and we went to make dinner, her words echoing in my mind. At school on Monday, the ladies' room was a non-issue. Brooke's defeat had spread like wildfire. During my first costume fitting, the guys were shooed out, leaving only the girls as I stripped to my bra and panties. The rumor, fueled by Samantha, without my prompting, was that I'd always been a girl, and it had taken root. Even those who knew my past seemed to accept it. The costumes were a nightmare. My natural 25-inch waist made the gowns look frumpy, and Mrs. Grant insisted on a corset, claiming it was period accurate. I was laced into one, my waist cinched to 22 inches, the dress finally fitting like a dream. But comfort? Non-existent. I wore it daily to adjust, the rigid boning forcing me to bend at the knees for everything. It sculpted my figure into something breathtaking, but I cursed it every day. Weeks later, my natural waist had shrunk to 23 inches, molded by the corset's relentless grip. Jake and I went out a few times, but our history twisted our bond into something unfamiliar. We drifted, unattached, which suited me as the play consumed my life, leaving little room for schoolwork or romance. The production ran 6 weeks to packed houses, then toured local schools for 10 more. On the road, I forgot what it was to be a boy. Alyssa was all I knew. Only Jake's presence stirred memories of my old self, his gaze a reminder of the line we'd crossed. On our final night, back at our school, I stepped off stage into the entryway and froze. Jake stood there, a sheepish grin on his face, clutching a massive bouquet. "As usual," he said. "You were beautiful out there." He offered the flowers, and I took them, my heart skipping as he grabbed my hand. Then, in front of everyone, he pulled me close, crushing the bouquet, and kissed me, deep and unapologetic. "I'll be over there when you're done," he said, pointing to a chair. "We need to talk." I rushed to the dressing room, the girls helping me shed the corset, gown, and layers in record time. I swapped stage makeup for my own, pulled on a skirt and blouse, and stepped out, their chatter about Jake's hunk status buzzing in my ears. I already knew that. Our eyes met, and he took my hand, leading me to his car. I started to protest. Mom, Dad, and Samantha were still inside, but he cut me off. "They've left. I told them we'd be late." His confidence was new, commanding, and I didn't resist as he took me to a late dinner, then back to the lake. I could claim he overstepped, that I fought to preserve my honor, but that'd be a lie. I was a woman now, undeniably, and when I touched him, it wasn't as a boy, but in that new skin, my fake breasts no barrier to the sparks he ignited. We stayed out until the early hours, and as we parted, I knew our old conflicts were gone, replaced by something deeper. In my room, I undressed and slipped into bed. A woman at last, the weight of that truth both thrilling and complete.